Hello and welcome to this DVHS GirlDevelopIt meeting. Today we'll be covering HTML input functions and focus on how to code a color slider. All right, so today we'll be quickly reviewing syntax for HTML buttons and alerts in JavaScript from the last meeting, and then we'll be learning how to code for HTML input functions, and we'll also be introducing the canvas element in JavaScript. And then finally, we'll have practice for you to try out these applications for yourselves. So here's a quick recap of the last meeting for HTML buttons. The general layout of HTML buttons is that setting up the button is done by HTML, while the function is coded for in JavaScript. Listed below are the HTML and JavaScript code for a button and producing alerts on a web page. The example here basically codes for a button that says click me, and it opens up a pop-up box that says you clicked me when clicked.
So first we'll be going over making buttons in HTML. So as a review, the general syntax for button is the input tag, and then the type is equal to button, and then the value is equal to some text, whatever text you want as the button, and then on click is equal to change. And then here we suppose that the function change is described in the JavaScript section. So with a little CSS design, the following HTML code will output the button you can see above. Using CSS to design HTML buttons are totally optional, but they make your button look really nice and your website outlook friendly to the user, and it's also more creative. And examples of commonly used features are width, margin, font, size, color, text alignment, border radius, and others. And for a complete list and some exercising regarding these properties, you can visit the link listed when we email the slides out later today. And again, the general syntax for a JavaScript function is the function, and then the function name with any parameters, and then inside the curly braces, whatever code you want the function to execute. So the alert function codes for a pop-up box that will be executed every time you call this function. And don't forget to put the semicolon at the end, or you'll get an error. And the format for input functions is very similar. It just has a prompt function instead of an alert function, and also needs to have a variable to store the user input to the prompt.
So alerts just display text to the user in a pop-up box, and input functions display the prompt to the user and can collect data to display an alert to the user, which is useful if you want a personalized interactive website. So in this example, we can output ticket prices for an event based on the user's age input. All right, so today we'll also be introducing Canvas, and we'll specifically be focusing on how to code a color picker. So this function doColor sets up the canvas element. So the code var canvas equals to document.getElementById can initializes the canvas variable. And then after that, var color input equals document.getElementById CLR sets up the color input variable. And then we set up the canvas background color to whatever value is stored in the color input variable. So you still need to code in HTML for the color picker. If we suppose that the function doColor, which was on the previous slide, codes for the canvas and color input variables, all we need to do is set up the color picker button. And this code should look really familiar. The input type is now color, the ID is now CLR, and the onChange function is now doColor. And then the value hashtag FF0000 sets the default color input value to red. If you like, you can replace this value with whatever you want.
So here's the color picker app from Google, and on the website you can shift your selector around the color box to get the hex and RGB values for specific color. And this is really useful because you don't always want to use like the default colors that they have. So maybe you want like a pastel pink instead of like the default pink. So you can look for those values. And if you want to, you can follow this link to explore the application when we email out the slides later today.
So if we just quickly look at this, So you can just drag this around to whatever color you want, and then you can get the hex value over here, or you can also use the RGB values over here as well. And then you can shift this along to get any sort of custom color that you want. Cool. So now we're going to try out these applications. So you can try coding this on CodePen or searching up an HTML, CSS, JavaScript editor and explore the techniques we learned today. So your choices today are coding a prompt input function to create a personalized alert, or you can make the color picker application. When you finish trying out one of these, you can resume watching. All right, so moving on to some examples. Here's an example of the input function. I think it's over here. So if I click this, basically it's a prompt that's asking me to enter my age. I'm 18, so I'll just put that. And so based on this, it says I can get in for free at the tourist attraction. And if we look over here, we can see the code for it. So it says if my age is less than or equal to 18, then I can get in for free. Otherwise, it's 15 euros. So our code here works because it says I can get in for free. Okay, and then this one's the color picker. So here I can click on this button and I can drag it around to any shortest shade that I want. And I can drag this around if I want it into like a darker or lighter shade. Let's just pick that one. All right, and then also it gives me my RGB values over here, like the Google application, and it also colors this box the color that I selected. And all this code we've went over in the slide so far, this is the function doColor, which we went over, that sets up the canvas element. These are just some CSS properties that sets up the box. And then over here, we have the canvas variable, and then also the button setup as well. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching up to here. Our next meeting will be on March 24th, which is in 2 weeks, and we'll be learning about Canvas and learning how to code for other sliders. There's a sign-in form again in case you weren't able to fill it out before, and see you all in 2 weeks' time.